In football, there is no sight more tragic than a hero returning home, only to bow his head in shame. The Aspmyra Stadion in Bodo was meant to be the stage for Erling Haaland's coronation, the greatest son the Nordics have ever produced. Yet, instead of glory, we witnessed a haunting black and white nightmare. It was a portrait of utter helplessness from a goal-scoring machine that once brought all of Europe to its knees. As the final whistle sealed a humiliating 1-3 defeat for Manchester City against the minnows of Bodo, Glimt, the familiar swagger of Erling Haaland was nowhere to be seen. Instead, his face was a mask of anger and shame. He walked straight to the traveling fans who had made the long journey, bowing his head in apology. "We tried, but clearly something is missing. This isn't Man City. It's not good enough, it's truly embarrassing," Haaland admitted. These were gut-wrenching words, not just an apology for one loss, but a heavy sigh reflecting the troubled times engulfing him and the entire City squad. So, what is happening to Erling Haaland? Why has a player who scored for fun, a man who shattered every record, suddenly become so harmless and lost? The answer doesn't just lie in cold, hard statistics. It's hidden in a bigger picture of physical burnout, psychological pressure, and the tactical stagnation currently plaguing Pep Guardiola's system. To understand the severity of this crisis, we must look deep into the disastrous 90 minutes against Bodo, Glimt. It was a match where Haaland played the full duration, yet his presence on the pitch was alarmingly invisible. The stats tell a frustrating story. Haaland registered a total of 5 shots, yet only 2 found the target, and naturally, no goals were scored. However, he had 18 touches inside the opposition box. That is a significant figure. It proves that Man City did manage to feed him the ball, the supply line was active, and chances were being created. The problem lies in the fact that Haaland's killer instinct seems to have been stolen. His touches lacked their usual sharpness, his shots lacked power, and his runs were just a split second too slow. Haaland contested 6 duels but to little effect. He was marshaled by Bodo's defenders, players who are largely inferior in class. The 1-3 defeat became even more bitter as Man City shot themselves in the foot with Rodri's moment of madness. 2 yellow cards in under a minute. Losing their midfield conductor meant losing their spiritual anchor, and Haaland became even more isolated. He ran, he screamed, he tried, but it was just the hopeless thrashing of a bound giant. Man City is in its most fragile state of the new year, with 11 players out due to injury or suspension. And when the system malfunctions, the spearhead, Haaland, is the one who suffers the most. Haaland's decline didn't happen overnight, but the speed of his downfall has alarmed pundits. Let's look at the stark contrast between the pre- and post-Christmas periods to see this terrifying shift. Early in the season, he was destruction incarnate, a programmed machine breaking every limit. He became the fastest player to reach 50 Champions League goals. The peak came on December 2 in a crazy 5-4 win against Fulham. His opening goal marked his 100th for Man City in just 111 games, shattering Alan Shearer's record by 13 matches. Back then, the world believed nothing could stop him. On December 20, he scored a brace against West Ham in a 3-0 victory, reaching 19 Premier League goals and surpassing Cristiano Ronaldo's tally of 103 club goals. Everything was on track for a future Ballon d'Or. But since Christmas, the train has derailed. In his last 8 games across all competitions, Haaland has scored just 1 lonely goal, a penalty against Brighton on January 7. That means it's been a month since his last open play goal against West Ham. From a man who scored for fun, Haaland is now scraping for chances. An 8-game drought from open play is a crisis of confidence rarely seen in the Norwegian's career. In these dark days, the Manchester Derby at Old Trafford on January 17 was the lowest note. It wasn't just a 0-2 defeat, it was a mental humiliation. Despite playing over 80 minutes, Haaland was completely harmless against United's defense. He was pocketed, given no room to breathe. The image of him limping off in the 80th minute was the clearest proof of City's deadlock. But the physical pain was nothing compared to the mental anguish. As Haaland left the pitch, the Old Trafford stands erupted in a cruel chant, "Haaland, Haaland, how's your dad?" It cut deep, like a knife reopening old wounds from 2001, when his father, Alf Inge Haaland, suffered that career-ending tackle from Roy Keane. For a son, nothing hurts more than hearing his father mocked while he himself is failing. That mockery, combined with his poor performance, dealt a heavy blow to his psyche. He lost his cool, he became volatile and vulnerable. The derby stripped away the myth, revealing that the monster, Erling Haaland, is just a human who feels pain. So, what is the root cause? Why has this Nordic god become so weak? The answer is simple: burnout. The statistics speak for themselves. Since mid-August, Haaland has plowed through a staggering 35 matches for both club and country. That is a massive number in less than 6 months. For a player whose game relies heavily on explosive power, speed, and physical dominance, such a dense schedule has completely eroded his fitness. Manager Pep Guardiola had to admit in a press conference last week that Haaland is running on empty. He sees the heavy legs of his pupil. He sees the loss of that usual fluidity in his stride. But the dilemma is that he cannot do anything else. Man City is currently in the midst of a severe personnel crisis. Omar Marmoush, the high-quality backup option for the attack, has yet to return after participating in AFCON with the Egyptian national team. Meanwhile, Antoine Semenyo, the expensive rookie who just landed at the Etihad, is ineligible to play in the Champions League. Backed into a corner, Pep Guardiola is forced to squeeze the very last drops of energy from Erling Haaland. Erling has to play, he is too important for us, Pep declared before the match against Bodo, Glimt. It was a statement of influence, but also a confession of the deadlock in his squad rotation. Haaland is forced to keep fighting in a state far from his best. Instead of resting to rediscover his touch and excitement, he has to drag himself across the pitch with the heavy burden of goal-scoring weighing on his shoulders. And when the body screams in protest, even the strongest will cannot compensate for physical deficits. The defeat to Bodo, Glimt, has pushed Man City into a difficult position in the Champions League. They are forced to beat Galatasaray in the final matchday if they want to keep alive the hope of a direct ticket to the round of 16. With the team's form hitting rock bottom, hope is once again placed on Erling Haaland's shoulders. But can he get back up? Haaland's decline is not only affecting Man City's achievements but also raising concerns about his long-term future. Over-reliance on a single striker due to a lack of effective Plan B options is making Man City easy to read. Opponents have started to figure out how to neutralize Haaland, isolate him from the midfield, play physically to provoke him, and force him to move wide, far away from the goal. When Haaland doesn't score, Man City becomes ordinary. They lost to Manchester United, drew with Brighton, and lost to Bodo, Glimt. These results are a red alert for the citizens' title ambitions. What is happening to Haaland? It is a story of human limits. It is the story of a star being squeezed dry by the ruthless cycle of modern football. And it is also the story of the loneliness of a lead striker when his lieutenants are missing. If Haaland is a machine, he needs maintenance, he needs rest. But in the current context, Man City does not allow him to do that. He must still take the field, must still run, must still shoot, and must endure the taunts. Can Haaland overcome this dark period to become himself again? History has proven he is a warrior with extraordinary recovery powers. But this time the challenge is greater. The football world is watching every step Haaland takes. Those who love him are worried. Those who hate him are gloating. But regardless, one thing is undeniable. When Haaland sneezes, all of Man City catches a cold. And right now, that cold is threatening to turn into a severe illness that could ruin the team's entire season. Let's wait and see if the monster can awaken, before it is too late.